Breaking news out of Texas hours after Karmelo Anthony found guilty of first-degree murder in Texas, sentenced to 35 years in prison. That is the sentence that was just handed down in a Texas courtroom. We are here with the latest developments, live feeds. In fact, let's get you to the live feed that just came in a short time ago from outside of the courthouse. We know that that's what people want to see, the reaction from outside the Collin County Courthouse, where we saw the big crowd earlier on once the sentencing phase began, shortly after, of course, the conviction was made. Was read aloud in the courtroom and then, of course, made known to everybody gathered here outside. Welcome in, everybody, to the Stream Center. JB Buno alongside co-host and producer Josh Scott. We're back here on stream with you tonight because of the latest development in the story. Once again, Karmelo Anthony, the teenager who was convicted of fatally stabbing a 17-year-old track athlete, has been now sentenced to 35 years in prison. A lot's been developing over the last several hours, including the possibility of this actually being changed from first-degree murder to a second-degree murder, a lesser potential sentence, but ultimately the first-degree murder charge sticks, and we have the sentence of 35 years in prison, Josh.
Yeah, you know, there were a lot of conversations happening. Obviously, they continue to happen. After the jury's initial deliberation, there was something added into the mix, and that's when sentencing was beginning to start. I want to get the words right here, the exact phrasing. And it was sudden passion. And what this defense does, I'm not sure about the full legality of what it means, but it changes what Karmelo Anthony could have been sentenced with. And if sudden passion were added to this, he would have actually dropped his sentencing down from anywhere between 2 years minimum to 20 years in prison minimum. Clearly, that did not happen, as he was sentenced to 35, meaning the first-degree murder without the sudden passion add is what carried through.
So it looks like we just lost that feed. So after a very long afternoon in Texas of feeding back video, a lot of the news crews were standing down, recharging their batteries, so to speak. As soon as we get a live feed back up, we'll take you there to that live feed. But, in fact, there it is. See, the moment I say it, I believe now we have two feeds.
They might be the same feed.
Yeah, they appear to be identical.
One thing I want to say that we're waiting on, victim impact statements are expected to follow sentencing. There's several people in the gallery holding pieces of paper and notes, including Austin Metcalf's twin brother, Hunter. We expect to get quotes out of that here to you shortly. As soon as we have them, we'll read them off.
Yeah, we're going to focus in on your reaction as well. You can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJosh in the comment section. You can also use just HeyJB or HeyJosh. If you use those keywords or hashtags, we can hone in on your comment and actually animate them on screen. We were doing that a little bit earlier. This is quite the emotionally charged story, and there's been so much back and forth in the comment section about whether or not this has to do with race. There's been a fundamental disagreement by people on social media as to whether or not race is at play here when it comes to the actual verdict itself and the sentence that was just handed down to Karmelo Anthony. The animosity on social media here is palpable, and we're parsing through all of these comments in real time. It can be really difficult with a story like this to animate comments as they come in, but we're going to do our very best. Use HeyJB or HeyJosh, and we'll keep an eye out for comments that we can animate on screen, like this one from Lynn. Okay, so now we have
some audio
coming in. This is our feed from News Nation and our friends over at News Nation. Let's bring this down here for a little bit. And you know what? He's getting mic'd up, so probably hear some, ruffled through the shirt audio. But we'll kind of keep that muted for now.
You mentioned
it's frozen.
This has been a case that's been watched heavily on social media and continues. And we talked earlier, this is almost certainly going to be appealed. There's already a fund, $10,000 was raised for that initial appealment. Is that a word? Is that the word appeal?
No, it's just appeal or appellate.
Appellate. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so as we move towards that, you had this new phrasing, and a lot of people thought, hey, maybe this is going to be 2 to 20 years, given the context of the situation, given that was kind of added on after the fact, and it turns out they didn't go that way. And so first you had the social media discourse on guilty, not guilty. People had strong opinions there. And now it kind of moves into how many years should Karmelo Anthony have been sentenced to? The jury deciding 35 was the number.
Okay, so Mrs. Tolley here in our comment section. Again, we're going to look for, clearly there's two sides on this story, on this particular story. Oftentimes there are two sides on a story, but and sometimes even more than that. But with this, clearly there is a line here, and people are either on one side or the other. At least that's the way it is in our social media comment section. So we're going to look for comments on both sides. Mrs. Tolley says, hey, JB, he deserved more. He admitted to doing it. So you're going to have to, I wonder, if we'll really understand the full context here as to why 35 years and why that number, because I'm trying to remember, there was a range earlier of, I think, it was up to 99 years to life in prison, but what was the minimum years on the first-degree murder charge? It's eluding me at the moment.
I'll try and find it. One update I want to give, just because we just got this. 2 arrests were confirmed outside of the courthouse today, according to the sheriff.
I think it was after we got off, because I remember we got off, and I said, oh, my goodness, somebody was just arrested.
Yeah, the first was for public intoxication. The second was for unlawful carrying of a weapon. We covered a lot of the outside of the courthouse, and we didn't see, at least from our end, anything violent. Lots of emotions, lots of passion, but neither of the arrests appear to be related to any of that, just 2 other things. Let's see if we can find here, though, what that initial range was, between 5 and 99.
Right, so it was a minimum of 5 years, up to 90. And
a fine, but at that point.
The range there is wild. So on first-degree murder, in Texas, you can be convicted of first-degree murder and get 5 years in prison. That's basically what I've never been a reporter in Texas. I've been a reporter in 8 states. I've never been a reporter in Texas. 5 years for first-degree murder? I don't know. That seems like it's a very, very wide range, 5 to 99 years. So
yeah, it's interesting how much leeway or say it ends up giving to the jury to be able to decide, with a range like that. It appears that victim statements have officially started, victim impact statements. Judge John Roach formally sentenced Karmelo Anthony, and that has happened. And it says Karmelo stood when he was asked to, and his defense attorney had his hand on his shoulder. He was looking down as the judge told him he was being remanded in the custody of the state to begin serving his 35 years.
Right. So make sure I have this right. So the end of this sentence would put him at, so he's 19, so he would be 54 years old. Yes. 54 at the end of the sentence. I believe that there was a possibility of parole, right?
I haven't seen anything yet saying either for or against.
Yeah, I want to know what the parole opportunity is going to be, if there is an opportunity for parole. Because I thought I saw something on X as I was making my way back into the station. So let's see here. Karmelo Anthony. Yeah, a few people on, I don't have it from a particular. Okay, yes, he will be eligible for parole after half-time served. That's what I saw. So half-time, so 17 and a half years puts him at some basic math.
What is that?
So 37? 37.
And credit to a viewer, I actually saw a comment with that earlier saying he'll spend 17 and a half and get out. So somebody else had also done the math there.
Yeah, look, there are people that do not believe that this is a fair sentence. And again, you can use Hey JB or Hey Josh. We want to hear from both sides, of course, as we do with every stream. MW says, hey Josh, how is that fair? Austin, referring of course to the victim, did not get 35 more years. Yeah, it's going to be, you know what? it's going to be very interesting to hear the response from the Metcalf family as to whether or not they feel that this is justice. And also, too, that there by no means is is Karmelo Anthony's family and friends going to see this as good news in any way, shape, or form. But you have to be curious as to their reaction to the 35 years in prison. I'm whether or not, I'm sure that it's just been a devastating day altogether, but it's not a life in prison sentence. So my goodness, you can't even imagine the amount of emotions at play, I'm sure, for the Karmelo Anthony, for his family, who have been going through all of this, of course, with Karmelo in the courtroom. And so you look at this, you look at both sides here, and you're just trying to get into the mindset of where they must be learning this news, because this is why, see, back to what I was talking about earlier. In so many states, we're here in Florida. In Florida, sentencing is scheduled at a later date, and there's ample time Julio Fulio is a case that we've been following very closely. There's always ample time after a verdict is read, and whether or not you find somebody guilty or not guilty, has somebody been convicted of a serious crime, then there's time to process, okay, my goodness, this is the reality of the situation now, and now sentencing will be held at a later date. They didn't do that in Texas here. This was sentencing in the immediate aftermath of this conviction being read aloud in the courtroom. And so it's wildly different.
It's kind of crazy to see how quickly this has moved, especially with the amount of people who are invested in a case like this. It's felt like there's been really every half hour there's been a type of update. And I remember we did it live. We reacted to it live when we realized, they're doing the sentencing tonight. We even had a conversation. Well, maybe, they're going to start it a little bit and then they'll take a recess, then they'll end for the day. No, they wanted to get this done. They wanted to be done with it. And clearly they're going to after today. His sentence will start, and so will the appellate process as well. And it'll be interesting to see reactions to both.
So another thing too, Karmelo Anthony's mother, according to the Associated Press, took the stand during sentencing and pleaded for mercy, asking for mercy, telling the jury that her son was remorseful, sorry, and you have to wonder, as she pleaded for mercy for her son, what kind of impact that had on the courtroom and on the judge and the jury, and ultimately how this landed at 35 years. It's interesting. We'll continue to parse through the comments. You can use Hey JB or Hey Josh in the comment section. We'll look for those comments, and we'll try to get as many up here on screen as we can.
And we might have a more stable feel. I'm not. Well, they just upped the exposure the second I said it.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah, I see that.
But again, waiting for that live shot to really stabilize, and it's the second I said it. Yeah, it is a white screen now on our end, but.
Thank you to the moderators on YouTube for helping out tonight, including Lynn. Let's see here. Mary says he should have gotten life with no chance of parole. There's no future for the young man that he murdered. There are a lot of people that do feel this way, that it should have been. What I'm seeing right now in our comment section, just with our hashtag system, there's a lot of folks who are of the opinion that they were expecting a more severe sentence, because again, that range of being basically 5 years, basically to life in prison, and coming up with 35 years. It's always, I always find it, I'm always trying to gain a better understanding as to how you settle on that number, and whether I can't help but wonder if there were comparable cases that were brought to the attention of those in court. Pointing to other cases with first-degree murder charges involving young people, because clearly we have two people here who had their entire lives ahead of them. One murdered, the other one, who will be spending now his many of his adult years in prison. But whether or not there were comparable cases that were brought to the attention of jurors to, say, hey, look, this is, as far as relatively speaking, this is what, somebody in this sort of situation in comparable cases would have gotten 35 years roughly.
We got the first statement quote we got was from a woman identifying as Austin's aunt, saying, "I will forever miss the remarkable young man that Austin was," and saying, "One question will always be with me. Why could you not have just left?" Again, these are statements being addressed to Karmelo Anthony inside that courtroom, the first one coming from Austin's aunt.
Eric says, "Hey, Josh, in my opinion, 35 years is leniency." Grammy says, "Why does there have to be so much racism and hate in 2026? When you get to the lowest common denominators in this particular case, people and their understanding of it, they see a black teenager who stabbed and killed a white teenager victim. And so when there's so much more to the case, but when you break it down to the lowest common denominators, that's what most people see, and that's what causes all of that racial tension and that hate to kind of boil up to the surface. And so we see that on social media, and so much of that rises to the top on social media of what people are clicking on and what people are reacting to, and there's so many people that are seeing it through that prism. Let's continue on here. So Mary says, Anthony's mom wants mercy for her son. What about Austin? Where is his mercy? Is the comment here from Mary. Again, you can use Hey JB or Hey Josh in the comment section. We'll continue to parse through them as best we can.
And we're getting a lot of the similar. You can see where some of the sentiment in our chat is, and we've seen both sides of it today. We've seen commenters, some commenters with support of Karmelo Anthony, some with support for Austin, some saying, this is just an incredibly sad situation. And we saw a lot of the opinions of the people outside of the courthouse earlier today. Very, very strong emotions as one could expect for something like this.
Yep. We do have the live shot from outside of the courthouse. Let's go back to that because it's not the scene that it once was, but my goodness, this let's just talk about the crowds out here for a moment. This could have boiled over real fast and gotten out of hand really, really quickly. And I think today was an example. And look, there's when the sun goes down, we've seen it with past cases. When the sun goes down, things can change. Not saying that they will, but things can change. But look, outside the courthouse, in the daylight hours, there was respectful discourse happening earlier on today. There were people that were extremely upset that had, of course, their constitutional right to be heard, especially outside the venue where this all unfolded today. And so, but this could have been a tragedy in and of itself. And Texas authorities clearly did a really good job of crowd control and making sure that things didn't get out of hand and that people were obeying the law. Because, look, bottom line is you can be heard, but you have to still, of course, obey the law. Now, there were 2 arrests, right? Were there 2 or 1?
There were 2.
I saw 1 for sure.
I saw reported 2, one public intoxication, and then the other was unlawful possession of an unlicensed firearm, I believe. But again, there were moments where it appeared 2 people were disagreeing, and then there was a handshake, and it was just it was nice to see it maintain the civility that you would hope a situation like this could utilize.
Agreed. Doris asking a great question. Hey, JB, has anyone talked to the jurors yet? With a high-profile case like this, especially jurors being able to maintain their privacy, protect their identities, and just be able to do their civic duty and return to their normal life, that's going to be of probably the utmost importance to the judge. So without question, you're not going to see the jurors just walk down these steps at the front of the courthouse and get to their vehicles. There is no chance that that's how it's going to work. The jurors are going to have an opportunity to return to their vehicles, or get to public transportation, or to get home by any means necessary safely, I'm sure, without having to be bombarded by the press or by the public that is gathered outside of here. And so it's up to the jurors as to whether or not they want to speak. We see this in so many cases. And look, in my experience in covering a lot of high-profile cases over the years, most jurors just want to be able to do their civic duty and go home, and perhaps talk about it with their friends and family, but don't want to do the whole Good Morning America tour thing. We've seen that in the past, where a juror will want to go public, and go public in a really big way on network television or on social media. We don't know what that's going to look like with this case just yet, clearly, because are the jurors still in the courtroom?
I was just about to say, they are still in there. They've had recess, but they've never left. It's been a very long day for the jurors.
It's late there. What's the time zone there? Is it Central or Mountain? No, it's Central, right?
It's Central. I believe it's 8:06 now.
8:06 there. That's a long time to be in there. Judges are usually quite understanding of, increase the exposure. Let's come back to this. Judges are usually really understanding of a juror's, personal time and being respectful of their time and their contributions to a case that in many cases lasts many, many weeks and with long, long days. I gotta be honest. I'm a bit surprised that it's 8:06 and they haven't been released. I'm sure that they're going to be released as soon as humanly possible, and I'm sure that they went late tonight so that they didn't have to return for another day tomorrow. That the jurors could be sent home tonight, and that they could be done with this and just go to bed tonight knowing that this case is behind them, that they did their civic duty, that they are. And that they're able to then go public if they so choose.
And move on and get back to their normal lives. And again, what's happened today already, what we're waiting for is basically just these continued, victim impact statements, because the sentencing, it's already been decided, and it's already been formally sentenced on to Karmelo Anthony. So, I don't know if we'll get interviews again like we had a little bit earlier outside of the courthouse. We're not sure, but right now there's not another step that would take place right after victim impact statements. They'd wrap up. I'd assume after that. I can't think of anything that they would do.
Yeah, and victim impact statements are usually part of the sentencing process, and usually a sentence is delivered and read aloud in the courtroom after victim impact statements. So there's still victim impact statements being read. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, it appears to be that way.
This is where I'll spare everybody my lecture on having cameras in court, but this is why cases now have cameras in court, so that people have access to the trials that they want to witness and execute their constitutional right to be present in a courtroom, to watch law and order at work, to basically be able to watch our criminal justice system at play. And so I just think that we should. I'm always going to be. I'm an unapologetic advocate for transparency and having cameras in court. And so it's very weird that we live in 2026 in some states, in some counties, in some jurisdictions with some judges that cameras are allowed, and then in some places it's not allowed. We're clearly in a gray area with how social media impacts the viewing of high-profile trials, but I'm always going to be an advocate. I want to know what's going on in the courtroom, and I think that people, Americans, have. If you can walk into a courtroom and sit your rear end down on a bench and be there in person, why can't that be shared out and distributed virtually? If you can be there in person, why can't you be there virtually? That's my viewpoint.
Speaking of views into the courtroom, we have the second victim impact statement. It came from Austin Metcalf's mother, and you can imagine the scene in the courtroom. The quote being, "There's a part of him you can never take from me, the strength I still get from him every day, because I know what it was like to be loved by him. My son was murdered. He didn't just die. He was taken from us just as he was starting to live. You may have just been given a sentence of 35 years. You should feel lucky because I've been sentenced to a life without my son. And then as she left the witness stand, Austin's mother walked past Karmelo, whose head remained down.
Yeah, I mean, both of these families are devastated. Both these families, their lives forever changed. And I encourage people to look at it as for both of these families have been through events that will change their life forever in different ways, in different ways, but connected to one singular event. And so Karmelo Anthony's mother pleading to the jury and to the courtroom today for mercy. I mean, she has watched this all unfold and is just trying to do her best as any mother would to protect their son from as much harm as possible. And then, of course, Austin Metcalf's family, they'll never be able to hug Austin again. They'll never be able to have a conversation. The conversations, if everything lands the way that it is, I mean, of course, that we have to get through the appeal that is undeniably going to be formally submitted, and it's going to go to appellate court. There's no doubt in my mind that at the very least that they will launch a bid for an appeal, and so that there's still more of this legal process to be carried out. But Karmelo Anthony's family can still visit him in prison. Karmelo Anthony's family can look at the sentence and say that Karmelo Anthony will not spend the rest of his life in prison. Austin Metcalf's family will never be able to say goodbye to their son. So both of these families, that they're just their lives forever changed, and it's we cover these cases and we forget the families attached to. We always focus on suspect and victim, but people don't realize the ripple effect that one singular event can have on the lives of these families for many, many years, if not decades, while the world will move on and focus on the next big high-profile court case and the next big thing and focus in on YouTube to follow the court case of, this big case in 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029. Those families, their pain lingers for a very, very long time. And I know because I still talk to families that deal with that pain. And many of them, what they do is they turn to advocacy and they try to enact laws and try to make the world a better place in honor of their loved one that they lost. So,
and just to add notes, and this is why I think it's important for everybody to remember where they are when they make comments online, regardless of the opinion, is they leave the courtroom. This isn't over. The court of public opinion is always active. And a lot of these families are going to go home, and if they don't resist staying off social media, they're going to see a lot of messaging and reminders about everything that took place here today. So even when that final gavel is hit, when the court closes and is no longer in session, it truly never ends there.
Falling star catcher, any indication of which prison he'll be assigned to, that can be, depending on the state, that can actually be a pretty significant deal. Not all prisons are created equal. Not all prisons have the same conditions or the same the same rules and the same prison populations. Not all prisons are created equal. And I've done stories on the correctional systems in a couple of different states, and look, some prisons are far more relaxed when it comes to inmate behavior. It's more of where corrections officers will, in large part, look, if as long as you don't create a problem for me, we're good. Like, that's how corrections officers see it, and so. But while other facilities are going to be far more strict, extremely strict in some places. So Which facility he gets assigned to, I don't know. And I again, I'm a little bit uneducated here because I'm unfamiliar with Texas law and the Texas prison system. So I've not been a reporter in the state of Texas. And look, states have different laws, courtroom policies, sentencing procedures, and so even different charges when it comes to murder. I didn't know about the sudden passion?
The sudden passion, yeah.
Is it that's like is it a clause? I was unfamiliar with that coming into today, so that was news.
Go back and read the exact wording of what it means. Yeah.
Yeah, Jessica Evans says it's sad for both families. Let's just stop it right there, Jessica, right? I mean, we'll just acknowledge that fact. It's sad for both families. Sad is, there's so many different words you can put in there. Devastating, life-changing, tragic. She continues, 2 sons were lost, but at least the Anthonys can still visit their son.
So sudden passion, as it was described in the courtroom. After the jury returned to the courtroom, after the first verdict, Judge Roach explained that the issue of sudden passion had been raised. He said if the jurors believe he committed the murder under sudden passion, then they will decide between a sentencing range of 2 to 20. And again, we've been over that a couple times. Clearly, that didn't happen.
Oh, hold on, Josh. We got some action here on the live shot, but no audio. Hold on. Let's try to... I'm going to bring in this shot. Maybe we have it on this. No, there's no audio coming from this. I don't know if they intentionally stopped the audio or if there's a connection issue. I have audio at full blast, and we cannot hear what this woman is shouting out. But this is a live look from outside the courthouse. There she is. She's putting up the heart symbol and getting into the car.
You're in a car that is surrounded now by cameras and bystanders and spectators.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened to our audio on this feed. That happened earlier today, remember?
It did, yep.
Yeah. But see, this is what I'm talking about, where judges have to, law enforcement here is trying to clear people out of the way.
And it looks like almost everyone, if not everybody, did move out of the way. And this is just on the point of how, despite charged everything has been, everyone has been respecting most of the calls of authority. We mentioned the 2 arrests that happened earlier, neither of which for violent incidents. And so if there's anything positive to take away from today, the ability to follow law enforcement and be able to engage in civil discourse like this has been seen.
Yeah, and now I'm really praying, truly praying, that tonight is peaceful in Texas and beyond, because we have seen it in the past that communities will protest after the sun goes down, after people are home from work, and after people have had time to gather after getting home from work. And these crowds can get large in protest, and all it really takes is 1 or 2 people to instigate before things get. Okay, we have audio back. Let's listen in. Let's go full screen. As we engage a new digital audience, we're live here outside the courthouse in the parking lot. This is a feed courtesy of News Nation. after Karmelo Anthony sentenced to 35 years in prison, possibility of parole after halftime serve.
They called me about audio. They're trying to get the camera. Like, what are you talking about? You worried about audio right now?
I'm here as a soldier and I'm here for you. But no, seriously, I don't want them to touch you. Because guess what? If I'm here, the story's different. The story's different.
Thanks.
So they were just basically saying, thank you. Like, racist, the jurors were, all white, and it was injustice.
Yeah, I think they just wanted gnats, and there's nothing you can do about that when we're literally out here in the trenches.
As we see Texas law enforcement making their way back towards this camera. And so, yeah, we just overheard some chatter. It was unclear who the chatter was from. We got into this a little bit earlier about the jury. There was a lot of finger pointing at the jury and the jury selection process. And that's the jury was not all white, as you just heard there in the side commentary off camera. But there was a lot made about the lack of a Black American on the jury, and so that was a major talking point in our comment section, a major talking point in this parking lot and outside of the courthouse. When earlier on today, in our very first live stream, in the breaking news live stream, that Karmelo Anthony was convicted of first-degree murder, that was a major talking point outside as to people who were making it known that they felt that played a role in the conviction today.
Well, we even heard from the representative outside who stated seemingly pretty clearly that while he's not speaking for the family, he then continued to say that's going to be a big part of this appeal process, is how the jury was selected, and the fact that the argument for was this fair representation on the jury under Karmelo Anthony's rights. And so, again, a storyline that's most certainly not going away.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how quickly an appeal is launched. I want to be clear here to our audience. An appeal is inevitable with a case like this. We're talking about a young person who is facing 35 years, the next 35 years of his life in prison. An appeal is a foregone conclusion. Now, exactly the strategy for that appeal and how vigorously they pursue that strategy, and whether or not there's a multifaceted strategy in pursuing the appeal, and on how vigorously they go after one particular thing. That all of that is going to become more clear once they actually do launch the appeal. But let me be clear to the audience: in covering a lot of cases, an appeal is an inevitability. It's going to happen. You could already write the headline. It's just we don't know exactly what the appeal is going to look like, and we don't know how quickly it's going to be. I've seen appeals in high-profile cases get filed literally the next day. I'm trying to remember the one where the lawyer had the appeal already in hand, written up for the press conference after a verdict was read. And walked over to the press conference holding, hey, this is the appeal. I have it ready to go. I'm filing it. I was prepared for today. And so they can be launched fairly quickly.
We have more of the victim statements too. Just came out. Austin Metcalf addressed Austin Metcalf's father addressed Karmelo Anthony. He spoke of Austin's leadership, how his teammates looked up to him. He addressed Anthony, and told him, don't look down, as he continued to look down during this. Metcalf said, since day one, this was never about race or politics, but, quote, what did you choose to do? Both. He also said that it was never about right or wrong, end quote. That's it. And he ended by saying Metcalf says that Anthony failed his parents, himself, and society, and that he does not belong in the community. Followed, Karmelo looked at Hunter, which was Austin Metcalf's twin brother. Hunter started by asking Karmelo Anthony to look up, to be respectful, and look him in the eye. Karmelo, who had been looking down during all the impact statements, looked up, and he said, "You took a son, a brother, a friend, and my best friend from this world. You took someone from me who was supposed to be an uncle, godfather to my kids. Now I want everything taken from you." And the judge instructs that Karmelo Anthony be taken into custody, and he's removed from the courtroom after this being the final victim statement.
So the father and brother both wanted Karmelo Anthony to look them in the eye.
Correct.
Yeah.
And based on what I've read, I don't think he looked up during the father's address, but he did look up when Hunter asked for him to meet his eye contact.
I can't even imagine what it was like in the courtroom for that moment, because those words are clearly quite powerful. This is going to be a last call for questions and comments, and we'll take as many as we can. Before we wrap up, Grammy says, "Hey JB, people need to stop the labels and using race as an excuse. Too many people turn to weapons, and once you use the weapon, you can't take the act back." I really hope that there's an opportunity for this community in Texas to heal, and it's going to be a long time. This is going to be. I don't know, Josh.
We've said it over and over again, but we can't really stress it enough. This does not end here tonight.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. You're going to have people going on press or giving press comments on this, on what happened today in court, and you're going to have the entire appeal process start up. And I don't know, JB, you can speak to this a little bit more than I can maybe. But even if the first appeal gets denied, depending on how large this is and depending on the funding behind it, it doesn't mean that appeal doesn't then move up again. And so with the amount of eyes that have been on this case, the amount of emotions and the strong feelings that have taken place and continue to take place, I really, you won't see coverage of this end after we end our live today.
That while that is true, I think that this is going to be a story for a bit longer. And we will understand more about what the appeal is going to look like and the grounds on which that appeal is launched. But eventually, much of the United States and people that consume the news on a regular basis, there will be another story that people will latch onto. That's just human nature for a lot of people. The next story will take up the attention of a lot of people across the country, and meanwhile, the pain persists for this family, these families, their friends, and really this community. There's just been so many stories that have, this town will always be known as the town where this happened. It's unfortunate. There's so much good in this town. There's so many families that live, happy lives and have called this, called Collin County home for so many years, if not decades. And there's so much more to this, I'm sure, vibrant community. But this is a headline that is going to persist here for a while, and you just you as people move on, it's just going to be. I just feel I feel for these families that now have to live with this for the rest of their lives, and also too just the pain that is being felt right now, I'm sure is unlike anything that most people will ever experience in their entire lives. Caius, I said this earlier. The appeal is inevitable. It's happening, and what the process will be like. I can't speak to it. I'm not an expert in Texas law. Sometimes appeals can be drawn out for months, if not years. Sometimes appeals get thrown out. Until we know more about the grounds in which they launched that appeal, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what might happen or what might take shape.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here. Clearly, folks have made their way home and have left the scene. They're right there by that tree near Josh's head. That was where there was a massive crowd earlier today, and everyone had their phones out. It was quite the scene, but minimal disruptions overall as far as the, to just law enforcement having to deal with the crowd out here. We were talking about the arrests earlier, but really things are calming down here outside of the courthouse, as you can see here from this shot before they power down. Yeah,
and if you enjoy this type of coverage for any style of news, we do it frequently here at WFLA. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can subscribe there. If you're on TikTok, you can follow. If we get a major update, we'll be right back as we were earlier today and when we went live here. But as these things happen, I think the last thing I'd say is just in disagreement in all the conversations you may have with all the opinions and the emotions, just remember to be good to one another, because there's not a lot of that in the world sometimes, and it's an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I want to end by just saying that there were a lot of people that were throwing a lot of nasty things around in our comment section today. That's the internet. That's what people are going to do. But there needs to be something said for the people that did keep it respectful and understanding. And there were a lot of commenters that we highlighted, and also ones that we didn't get the chance to highlight as well. People that were kind and respectful and tried to have some decency and understanding to the different perspectives and different sides of this story. And also too, maybe there wasn't that tremendous level of understanding, but people that were still kind of respectful regardless. People that need to be told that we see those people. It's not just, in fact, the hateful comments, I just kind of let scroll on by. I don't really pay much attention. The people that were making objective points and the people that were being respectful to just how transformative of an event this was for these two families. I mean, those people, you're appreciated for keeping the discourse in our comment section, keeping the train on the track, so to speak. Thanks to Josh for helping moderate. I echo what he said. If you appreciate what we do here in the Stream Center as far as bringing you guys live, raw coverage of breaking news events, you can click on the like button, subscribe. I don't know how to do the whole, follow us thing, but there's usually a bell or a like or a live notification that you can click on. We're on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, the various platforms, and you can follow WFLA for more here from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida. So as we sign off, a thank you to our moderators on YouTube for this evening/night edition of Hey JB from the Stream Center. For Josh Scott, I'm JB Buno. We'll see you next time, and you can find the very latest on the story on WFLA.com. Good night.